It's amazing, isn't it? Some stories, they just stick with you. Those unsolved puzzles that just never seem to have that final piece. It's like an itch you can't quite scratch, that need to know. And, it really makes you think about how true crime, all those documentaries and podcasts about the unexplained, they become so popular recently. It feels like everyone's hooked on trying to crack these cases.
Yeah, I think there's something about these unresolved cases that really gets under our skin. They highlight how much we don't know, how easily what we think we understand can completely fall apart. And yeah, sometimes they show us a side of humanity that we'd rather not think about.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to the deep dive, everyone. You know the drill. You send us the sources, the stories that have you baffled.
And we dive deep. We try to figure out what's really going on, pull out the juiciest bits.
Exactly. It's your shortcut to getting informed on the stuff that really matters. And this time, well, let's just say you've really outdone yourselves.
Oh, absolutely. A treasure trove of mysteries. The sources you've sent in, they're all about these disappearances, cold cases, and puzzles that just make your head spin. We're talking cases that have stumped investigators for years, sometimes even centuries.
Yeah, they really grab hold of you, don't they? I mean, just looking at what you've sent in, we've got everything. From the heartbreaking case of an unidentified child to these brutal murders where the killer seemed to vanish into thin air. We've got a cryptic manuscript no one can understand, someone hijacking TV signals with this weird, disembodied voice, someone returning who might not even be who they say they are, and then a chilling incident in a hotel room.
Buckle up, everyone. We're diving in.
That's right, we are going to try to untangle these enduring mysteries. I think a good place to start, and it's a case that always seems to come up when we talk about these haunting unsolved mysteries, is The Boy in the Box from 1957 in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that one always sticks with you.
It's just so profoundly sad. Your sources detail how this young boy, they think he was only 4 to 6 years old, was found in a box. And the details, they're just heartbreaking. He had been beaten, and what's even more disturbing, he showed signs of having had surgery before he died. I mean, with all the forensic technology we have now, what do you think are the biggest challenges in solving a case like this with such a young and unidentified victim?
I think the first hurdle in a case like The Boy in the Box is, well, who was he? You need a name, right? Without that, investigators are stuck trying to match physical descriptions to missing persons reports, which back in 1957 weren't nearly as organized or advanced as they are today. And the fact that he had those signs of medical treatment, it suggests that someone was taking care of him, but no one came forward. It's like, even in a world where we're all supposedly so connected, people can still slip through the cracks. Makes you think about those vulnerabilities we all have.
It does. Moving on a couple of decades, we have the disappearance of the Yuba County Five in California in 1978. 5 men, all with developmental disabilities, vanished after going to a basketball game. With that in mind, were there any specific investigative protocols or things they would have needed to consider in this case that maybe weren't common practice back then?
That's a really important point. When you're dealing with individuals with developmental disabilities, communication becomes absolutely key. Understanding their routines, that's crucial too. Witnesses might misinterpret what they see, and the individuals themselves might have trouble explaining what happened. And then there's the fact that their car was found 70 miles away on this deserted mountain road. And get this, it was still running with gas in the tank. It's like they just took off suddenly, maybe got disoriented. And then months later, they find one of the men's bodies frozen in a trailer. What happened to the other 4? It's just a huge puzzle. This case really highlights how important it is to have specialized ways of investigating cases, especially when you're dealing with vulnerable people.
Absolutely. Let's fast forward to the year 2000. We're in Tokyo now, and we have the horrific Fitagaya family murders. This is where 4 members of the Miyazawa family were brutally killed in their own home. What makes this case so unsettling are the things the killer did after the murders.
Yeah, it's that almost casual disregard for what they did. They stayed in the house.
For hours, they ate ice cream, used the family's computer. It's almost like they were completely comfortable in this space where they just committed these horrific acts. And here's the crazy part. They left behind a ton of DNA evidence. You'd think with all the advances in forensics, that would be it, case closed. But no, the killer's identity is still a complete mystery. It's like a giant slap in the face to modern technology. So with all the forensic science we have now, how can a case like this still go unsolved? What does it tell us about what DNA evidence can't do?
I think the Setagaya murders really show us the limits of DNA evidence. It's only helpful if you've got a match in a database. The killer must not have had any prior run-ins with the law because their DNA wasn't anywhere to be found. Makes you wonder about all the people out there who could commit these terrible crimes and just disappear, even with all the technology we have.
That's a sobering thought. Okay, let's go back to 1974, this time to Massachusetts. We have the chilling mystery of the Lady of the Dunes. A woman's body was found on Race Point Beach, and the details are pretty gruesome.
What really makes this case stand out is how they tried to hide who she was. She'd been dead for weeks, maybe even 3, and they'd almost completely cut off her head. They even took her hands.
It's like they were trying to make sure no one could identify her. But there's a twist. She had very distinctive dental work. You'd think that would be a clear lead, right? But nope, decades later, we still don't know who she was. It's like a reminder that even with all the progress we see in cases like the Setagaya murders, even basic identification can be thwarted. So what does it say about our ability to piece together a life when even unique physical characteristics don't lead us to a name?
The Lady of the Dunes case is a tragic example of how fragile identity can be. Someone could be completely erased. You could have distinctive dental records, but if there's no matching record or anyone who recognizes those details, it's like that person never existed. It makes you think about how much we rely on records and how isolating it can be when those connections are broken.
In 2009, we had the disappearance of the Jameson family in Oklahoma. Sherilyn, Bobby, and their little girl, Madison, who was only 6 years old, vanished in the Oklahoma mountains. What's strange about this one is what they found in their truck.
Right. They found their truck locked 8 days later, and inside was a ton of cash, like $32,000, plus their phones and their GPS. It doesn't make sense. Why would they just leave all that behind if they wanted to disappear?
Exactly. It seems like something happened suddenly. Maybe they were forced to leave, and they never found any trace of the family. It's just baffling. What kind of scenarios do you think investigators would have considered first, given that all that money and their stuff was still there?
Well, finding all that cash and their belongings would have made investigators think twice about a voluntary disappearance. They would have had to consider other possibilities, like maybe someone took them or there was a sudden emergency or even, something happened within the family that led to them disappearing. The trick seemed fine, but no one was inside. It's a real head-scratcher.
From a family vanishing to a community terrorized over decades, we have the mystery of the Circleville letters in Ohio from the 1970s through the 1990s. These weren't just, mean notes.
Oh no, these letters went way beyond that. They were filled with these deeply personal, damaging accusations against people in the town. Infidelity, crimes, even murder. It really got out of hand.
It did. It went beyond letters, too.
Yeah.
There were threats, and then a woman's husband died under suspicious circumstances after getting a call, they think, from the letter writer. But here's where it gets really interesting. They arrested this guy, Paul Freshour, convicted him of writing some of the letters and even trying to kill one of the recipients. But guess what? Even after they locked him up, the letters kept coming. He even got one himself. It makes you wonder, how many people were involved? Or was he completely innocent all along? What do you think this tells us about these kinds of anonymous attacks and how they can spiral out of control?
The fact that those letters kept coming, even after they put Freshour away, suggests that either someone was copying the original writer or he wasn't the only one writing them. Maybe he wasn't even the main writer. These anonymous attacks, they're just so insidious. You can't tell where they're coming from. They make everyone suspicious of each other, and they can just keep going even when you think you've caught the culprit.
It's a reminder to be careful about jumping to conclusions. Let's switch gears now to something totally different. The Voynich manuscript. This book, from the 15th century, it's written in a script that no one's ever been able to decipher. It's like some secrets are just meant to stay hidden.
It really is. We're not even talking about a lost language here. The script itself is unique. There's nothing like it in any known writing system. And then you've got these illustrations. Plants that look like they're from another planet, weird astronomical charts that don't match up with anything we know, and these strange human-like figures doing who knows what.
It's been studied for decades by linguists, cryptographers, even people using AI, and nothing. Still a mystery. Some say it's a medical or alchemy text. Others think it's a giant hoax. But they did carbon dating on the paper and ink, and it is that old. So what does it mean that we still can't understand it? Does it tell us about how complicated language can be, or maybe that someone wanted to keep it a secret on purpose?
There are a few possibilities here. Maybe it's a language or code that's so different from anything we know that we just don't have the tools to understand it. Or even though it's centuries old, maybe it is some kind of elaborate gibberish, maybe created for some secret purpose, or even just to trick people. Whatever it is, it really highlights how complex language is and how hard it can be to figure out how people communicated, especially when we don't know the rules.
From an ancient puzzle to a much more modern one, we have the Max Headroom signal hijacking in Chicago back in 1987. This one's just plain weird, so tell me, what happened?
Well, picture this. You're watching the 9 o'clock news, and suddenly the signal gets interrupted. And what do you see? Someone wearing this creepy rubber max headroom mask. They're just there on your screen for about 30 seconds, and then the broadcast comes back. But it doesn't end there. Just a few hours later, it happens again on another channel.
And this wasn't some sophisticated hack, right? It was pretty low tech.
Yeah, it was like someone just barged in and messed with the signal at the local transmitter level, and the fact that it's still unsolved, probably because no one really knows why they did it and they didn't do anything else after that.
Yeah.
It's just this weird, isolated incident. It's like a little blip in broadcasting history.
Okay, now to 1922, and the strange case of Pauline Picard's return in France. This girl disappears from her family's farm, which unfortunately is something we hear about too often. But what happened after is what's truly bizarre.
Months later, they find a girl who looks just like Pauline, hundreds of miles away. But when her parents went to see if it was really her, the girl acted like she didn't even know them. She wouldn't even respond when they spoke to her in French, her native language.
So was it really Pauline? Or was it a case of mistaken identity? Or something even stranger, like something happened that completely changed her? What could possibly explain such a drastic change in a young girl?
It could be that she experienced some kind of terrible trauma that caused her to lose her memory, maybe even forget who she was, or, though it's less likely, it could have been the wrong girl, someone who just looked a lot like Pauline. But the distance she traveled and the fact that she didn't recognize her own family, that makes it a tough one to solve.
Next up, we're going back to 1965 to the Sheraton Gunter Hotel in Texas. This is the haunting and unsolved mystery of room 636. Sounds like something out of a movie.
It does, doesn't it? A maid walked into this room and found a man in there with blood all over the sheets. And get this, when she tried to ask him what happened, he shushed her and then walked out of the hotel carrying those bloody sheets with him.
It's creepy, right? And then there were all these things they found in the room. Blonde hair, women's clothes, and a bullet casing. So they find out the man was registered under a fake name, Albert Knox, but his real name was Walter Emmerich, and he had been seen with a blonde woman. Walter ended up taking his own life, but they never found the blonde woman. No one ever reported anyone matching her description missing either. It's like we only have a few pieces of a much bigger, darker puzzle. So what do you think happened to her?
The fact that they couldn't find any trace of this blonde woman, no missing person report, nothing, is a really bad sign. There are a few possibilities, none of them good. Maybe she was part of whatever happened in that room and ran away, or maybe she became another victim, and we'll never know what happened to her. The things they found in the room definitely point to violence, and her disappearance just adds another layer to the mystery.
It's a chilling thought. Now we're heading to Russia, 1959, for the Dyatlov Pass incident. This one is just bizarre through and through. 9 experienced hikers died mysteriously in the Ural Mountains. Their tent was found ripped open from the inside, like they were trying to get out in a hurry. But it's the bodies that are truly disturbing.
Yeah, at first they thought maybe it was just hypothermia, but when they examined the bodies, things got a lot more complicated. Some of them had serious injuries, like they'd been hit by a car, but there were no external wounds. Others had burns, and one of the women was missing her tongue. And this is the weirdest part. Some of their clothes had traces of radiation on them.
Radiation. That throws a wrench into everything.
Yeah.
Over the years, there have been so many theories: KGB involvement, accidental poisoning, even crazy stuff like UFOs or infrasound, this low-frequency sound that can make people panic. But the truth is, we still don't know what happened up there on that mountain. Given how strange those injuries were, what kind of things do you think investigators might have considered back then, even if they seemed far-fetched?
With those weird and conflicting findings, the internal injuries but no external marks, the radiation, investigators would have had to consider all sorts of possibilities, even some really out there ones. Maybe there was some kind of unknown weapon or energy source involved. The radiation, though we don't know where it came from, suggests they came into contact with something dangerous. And that tent being ripped from the inside. It seems like something happened that terrified them, made them run out into the freezing cold without even stopping to get dressed properly.
Moving on to a more recent mystery, we have Havana syndrome, which started cropping up around 2016. CIA agents and people working at embassies in Cuba and later in China started reporting all these awful symptoms that seemed to be triggered by strange sounds.
Yeah, we're not talking about little aches and pains here. These people were experiencing real debilitating symptoms: nausea, splitting headaches, dizziness, hearing loss, vertigo. And all this seemed to happen